In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I rewired my brain to stop dissociating before helping hundreds of others do the same. So if you have a tendency to dissociate, I want you to stay with me because by the end of the video, you're gonna know exactly what to do to stop dissociating after I walk you through this step-by-step process so you no longer have to experience that feeling of being trapped in your head and disconnected from others in the world around you. Before we dive in, just want to introduce myself. So I'm Rubin, Naidu, transformational coach, and I specialize in social anxiety and self-esteem. And a big part of that is healing from dissociation. And if you need help with this, there's a link below the video to speak with me directly, and I'd love to be able to give you some closer support with this. Okay, so what is dissociation? And just a heads up, I'm not doing a super deep dive into the underlying mechanics and the dynamics that are happening within your mind and body when it comes to dissociation. I did make a video on that. I'm gonna link it up at the end of the video for you to check out. So make sure you stay until the end so I can point you to that video. But real quick here, dissociation is a tendency to disconnect from your body. It'll lead to feelings of being disconnected from your experience. So for example, you're in a conversation, but it'll feel like there's this glass wall in front of you or the other person, or it'll feel like you're watching it from above, or it'll feel like you are watching it from a distance, even though your body is physically in the conversation and going through the motions. It's very confusing and very overwhelming. Now, very important here, what I want you to understand is that dissociation is an aspect of your personality, just like anger. Anger is another aspect of your personality. It is not, I want you to listen to this, it is not a personality trait. It's not something that you're born with. It's something that you used as a defense mechanism, as a survival mechanism. In other words, it's something that you developed and you can heal it from the source. I promise you, okay? So I'm gonna walk you through the step-by-step process right now. Let's get into this here. Okay, so I'm gonna be walking you through a 4-step process here. There's gonna be quite a few details, but that's where your results lie. Your results lie in the details. And we're going to start off with step 1 here, which is develop your active imagination. Now let's just ignore this picture here for now. Okay. Your active imagination, this doesn't mean you're like a 5-year-old thinking you have an imaginary friend. It's not like that. Okay. This is a faculty of your mind. And what I want you to understand, active imagination makes it so that your body doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. So for example, your body will react with the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same physiology, whether you're actually in the social situation or if you are outside of the social situation now, and you are thinking back to it. So you are imagining yourself back in that social situation after the fact, and your body is going to react the same way. The thoughts and feelings, different aspects of your personality, the same ones that got activated when you were in the social situation are going to get activated. This is a very beautiful thing. It's amazing. Why? Because you can work smarter, not harder. You don't have to throw yourself like I did. Like, let me be the guinea pig for both of us, right? Waking up in the morning, having the goal of talking to like 20, 30 strangers a day. And this might also be the reason, dissociation might also be the reason why exposures started to feel scary, why they started to feel like no matter how hard you tried at them, you felt worse off after the fact. Okay, so very important here. So number 1, you're going to develop this faculty of your mind, and it's going to set up your life in such a bigger way. It's more than just social anxiety. When you're moving towards your goals and your dreams, this is by far the most important aspect of your mind. that you want to develop, okay? So there's a link below the video to the active imagination meditation. And essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be putting yourself right in the social situation. Just a heads up. It's not that you see yourself in your mind when you imagine this. You don't see yourself in the social situation. You embody yourself right into the social situation. You only see your own arms and legs. That's how immersed into the situation that you are within your imagination. And you're going to be bringing up the faces of different people. And what you're going to notice is you're going to have the same thought patterns, the same feeling patterns, and the same physiology that gets kicked up, even though you are using your imagination, your active imagination. And what you're going to really pay attention to is, now we can look down at this diagram here, is I want you to pay attention to these three areas, okay? So the throat here, this is just a heads up, this is your energy processing system. These are where your emotions lie within your body, okay? So you're going to pay attention to these three areas: your throat, okay, so your throat energy processing system. Over in the east, they call them the chakras, right? Over in the middle here, your heart energy processing center. And then at the top of your stomach, maybe even the bottom of your stomach, this is where you're going to place your attention. So you can go ahead and do that now, or we can just jump ahead. But essentially, that's step one. And it brings us over to step two over here, which is meet your dissociator. It sounds pretty funny. I get it. And it says, very important here in the brackets, in your body. Now, to help you understand the dissociative aspect of your personality, we're going to be explaining in parallel the angry or the raging part of your personality. Very important. It's going to help you tie them together. It's going to help you understand dissociation on a way deeper level. Okay. Now, I want you to imagine, quick exercise for you is, we all have that friend, right? The one who betrayed us, right? That fucking, insert whatever label you want to put on the guy. But we all have that, right? And I want you to do this exercise with me right now. Right? I'm with you here. I'm holding you with this. Now, I want you to think back to this friend. Think about what happened, right? What caused this betrayal, or these feelings of betrayal? What happened? I want you to think back. Go ahead. So I'm with you. Okay. Take a moment. And now, why did I tell you to do this? Is because you will notice that you went back to an experience, what happened, okay? But you weren't able to go back to what happened without those old feelings flooding you and coming back and flooding your experience in the present moment. You feel anger. You feel the anger all over again. You feel the betrayal all over again. You get the feeling like you can't trust anybody all over again. But instead of connecting with this intellectually or from the top down, we're going to start working what we call from the bottom up. Okay. And what I want you to do now, that anger that just came up for you, I want you to find it again. You were prepared for this, right? I want you to find it in one of your energy processing centers. Okay. Usually it can be in the heart chakra, or the solar plexus, or the bottom of the stomach, but just stay open. What I want you to do, locate your anger. In other words, meet your angry part, but meet your angry part in your body. Why do you want to meet your angry part in the body? Because if you think about it this way, when you meet somebody, there has to be resonance, and there can't be resonance until you can feel a little bit of what they feel, right? So the same goes for your angry or your angry part of your personality. you have to have resonance, and you can't have resonance until you connect with it emotionally. And you can't connect with it emotionally until you experience it through your body, not your mind. Okay. And so we're going to go back here, and we're going to now, we have to meet your dissociative part, or that dissociative aspect of your personality, which can be very, very tricky. Okay. But I'm going to explain to you how to do this now. Now, we know you can't access an old experience without accessing the old feelings. I was the one that triggered that for you. I told you to think back to it. But we're talking about life here, right? You go into social groups, you go into situations, life will do that for you. It'll do it all automatically, subconsciously. Okay. It doesn't need Rubin to say, hey, think of this. Your body will just be reminded of things. It'll just pull it up automatically. Okay. So with your dissociative part, okay, what I want you to do to get access or to meet this dissociative aspect of your personality, I want you to now think back to the social situation. You were prepared for this with your active imagination. I want you to think back or imagine yourself back in the situation. And what you are going to is there's quite a bit that happens in a social interaction. But what you are trying to be attuned to, and this is very tricky sometimes, I want you to be attuned to the moment that you feel the confusion or the disoriented feelings, or the feelings like you you have this urge to run and escape. This feeling like, for example, you're thinking of what to say next, but it's not to get the other people to like you. It's about damage control. It's about damage control because you've already been checked out of your body. You're so disoriented and confused that now you're just thinking of what to say next, just to prevent yourself from being embarrassed and feeling humiliated, because you're checked out of your body and you no longer have any cognitive functioning. So that is the moment in your active imagination that you want to go back to. It's the sensation that all the energy in your body is getting shot up into your head, or this quick checking out of your body. And what you will want to hone in on over here, we go back to our diagram here, usually it's down at the root chakra. Okay. Dissociation isn't about, how you're relating to people. So for example, your throat, you'll feel a lot here when you're feeling like you can't express yourself. You'll be feeling a lot in your solar plexus when you feel like you can't stand up for yourself. It's about bullying. Your root chakra is all about, do you feel anchored into your body? Do you really have something to ground into when all those feelings come flooding through your mind and your body? Okay, so that's where I want you to look for the dissociative part of your personality, mainly in the root chakra. Okay, that's where you will typically find it. Stay open though. You might feel some resonance somewhere else. Just stay open. So that is step 2. You meet your dissociative part in your body. And again, that dissociative part, it can be so quick. It can be so subtle that it's often hard to meet it. It's hard to access it. So again, remember, book that call with me if you need extra support so that we can talk about exploring this together. Now, real quick here is that we need to distinguish here. And we've talked about this working from the bottom up. Let me just distinguish this photo over here. This diagram is your thoughts and your feelings are up here. Okay, they're up here. I think angry thoughts. I feel angry feelings. I can say that. Yeah, I feel angry. But what is happening in the body? Remember, there's going to be these really uncomfortable physical sensations happening in one of your energy processing centers. So there's a somatic or a bodily experience that is always connected to the thoughts and feelings that are happening in your mind. So that's very important. And now that you've met your dissociative part in your body, we can move on to step 3, okay? Which is discover the motivation, right? So you have the angry thoughts and feelings. They start getting drudged up. Remember what he did, what it did to you, what it did to your life. And oh, you start fantasizing all this anger, what you would do to him, and oh man, I would, if I had the chance, right? All this fantasy and thoughts coming up. And what I want you to understand, though, is it's serving a purpose, right? So if you, now that you are connected to this angry part emotionally, not intellectually, emotionally, you can start to draw out information from that anger. You can get an underlying message of the deeper purpose that it serves. So I'll give you an example. This question right here, what are you afraid would happen? This in your life, I want you to understand this. This is worth $1,000,000. And I'm not exaggerating this at all. This question in and of itself is worth $1,000,000. It's priceless. It is the most powerful and potent question that you can ask yourself. Okay. So when you think about the anger, it's bubbled up, it's activated, okay, it's permeating your experience. And if you were to ask yourself, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't get angry? What are you afraid would happen if you didn't get angry? And actually, let me put this here. If you didn't, right? And then get angry, dissociate. So we're going to answer these questions. And you will get, if you are in fact emotionally connected, if you are in fact using your active imagination in a skillful way, you're connected to your anger from an emotional level, you have some resonance. What are you afraid your anger will say? What are you afraid would happen if you didn't get angry? Well, people are going to walk all over you. People are going to disrespect you. People are always going to say things out of line and put you down and feel like there's no consequences at all. So I have to get angry. Anger, anger, anger. It serves that purpose, right? And underneath the surface, this is another $1,000,000 question. So you got $2,000,000 today, okay? So what are you afraid you would feel? I'm missing a you here. What are you afraid you would feel if you didn't get angry? Well, if I didn't get angry, people are going to disrespect me. They're going to make attacks on me, and I'm going to feel inferior. I'm going to feel like I'm completely ashamed. I'm going to feel completely less than if I don't get angry. Okay. So the anger serves a purpose. And that is ultimately the underlying motivation of the anger being there in the first place. So it's not that the thought forms need to be there in the first place. You need to go underneath the surface and discover the underlying motivation so that they can, as we say, fall out of consciousness. Because the anger said, I will feel completely inferior and less than. I will feel completely hurt and attacked. Okay. What does that mean? That means you have an inner child inside you that still is frozen in time and is still feeling that way. And that's the work that you need to do, is to go heal that inner child so that this anger can be redirected and channeled in a healthy way. Okay. Now that brings us to dissociation. Okay. What are you? So you have this kind of thought feelings, this feeling like you're checked out and you're up in your head, you're trapped and you can't get out. Okay. Now that you've met your dissociative part, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't dissociate, if you didn't check me out of my body? Okay. Well, if I didn't check you out of your body, you would feel humiliated. Okay. That's what dissociation is really about. It's about humiliation and extreme fear, terror. That is what the dissociation is protecting you from. Think of your mind and your body are connected through a psychophysical bridge. And when there's too much flooding from the body, remember those emotions that we talked about, the energetic component. When there's too much flooding of energy going this way, your mind has to cut it off. It has to disconnect you. It's no longer safe to be in your body. So your dissociative part, anger is really afraid of other people making attacks and then you feeling a certain way after the fact. Dissociation is about the fear of fear itself. It's about the overwhelming fear of being flooded by your own feelings. That's what dissociation is really about. But again, look, we're discovering the underlying motivation. If I don't check you out of your body, you're going to experience utter terror, or you're going to feel completely humiliated on the inside again. Okay, so look, what does that point us to? Look down here. It points us to those past experiences that you are re-experiencing in the present. And the experiences, remember, you cannot access that memory, what happened, without also accessing how it made you feel. Just like the angry memory, you can't access what happened without accessing the anger. You cannot access what happened when you started dissociating without experiencing the humiliation that you felt in that moment and the complete terror that you had riveting through your body, which is why your personality has oriented in a way to be shy, quiet, withdrawn, or introverted, to keep a cap on that and never let it come up again. Because that could be very humiliating and embarrassing to experience that in front of people again, right? But now that you're asking the $1 million questions, you just got access to the $1 million answers, right? You just were told, for example, by the angry part, you're going to feel inferior, you're going to feel less than, you're going to feel attacked, you're going to feel small again. What does that tell you? Is that those are the experiences that you need to process through. The other thing, remember, on dissociation, you're going to feel completely humiliated again, or you're going to feel terrified again. You're going to be overwhelmed by those feelings again. That points you to an experience, which over here leads us to our last step, step 4, which is complete that emotional cycle. Again, through your body. You met your angry part in your body. What the anger is covering up, it's going to point you to the inner child that lives within your emotional system again. So step 4, complete the emotional cycle over here. Okay. You're once again, if the answer to that $1 million question was you're going to experience humiliation, you're going to experience overwhelming feelings, overwhelming terror, overwhelming fear, or the anger said you're going to feel overwhelming hurt, then once again, you locate it in your energy processing system or your energy processing centers, and you start to, again, get resonance and draw out information once again. One thing that's extremely important for you, when you get access to that humiliation living within your emotional system, or that terror living in your emotional system, do not resist it. Do not try to change it. And do not try to make it go away. Do not judge it. That is exactly what keeps the cycle going. That is exactly what keeps the feelings alive and prevents you from fully processing it. So I want you to think about this is completing the emotional cycle. I want you to look to nature. So for example, I want you to think of a squirrel that just dodged this hawk, this big hawk that's after it's going to eat it. And it runs up a tree and is kind of chilling in this hideout spot. I want you to understand it's going to start jittering. It's going to start shaking. Animals have this process where they shake out the extra energy, the jitteriness. Why? Because they're shaking out the excess energy flowing through their body when their bodies go into fight or flight or survival. It's a completion of that process, and shaking it out of their nervous system is the way that they do it. Us humans, though, when we go into fight or flight, let's say you went through this experience where you were completely humiliated, or maybe it was like a physical violence thing where you felt complete terror, is you will start to judge yourself for this. Animals don't do this. The squirrel's not like, oh my goodness, this happened to me.
these other squirrels aren't going to want to hang out with me, and I think there's something wrong with me. They don't do that. Us humans do that, okay? So that is all a way to keep the feelings from not being processed. So our minds are extremely good of taking that experience, never letting it process through fully, and then shoving it way back into the unconscious parts of our mind, which is what makes us so resilient, right? If you really had the tools, you had the resources, you had the emotional support back then, you would have been able to process it. But for whatever reason, you weren't able to process through the flooding of the feelings, the humiliation, the terror, the fear, and have it complete its cycle. And that is why we're going to re-experience it through the body without judging it, without blaming ourselves, without resisting it, without trying to change it, without trying to make it go away, without resistance. And so here's an example. When you get down to those experiences, remember, they will be shown to you through your body. Trust your body. Your body's way more intelligent than your mind. You've been trying to think out of social anxiety for how long now? I'm guessing decades, right? Like I did. Let your body show you, let it lead the way to what needs to be seen, okay? And what you will notice is this picture on the left. You will feel the energetic resonance within your emotional system, those physical sensations, the rippling, the churning, the stabbing sensation is very painful. The stabbing sensation, the churning, the butterflies, the constriction, the contraction happening within your body. And what you will do when you place your focus there in your emotional system, that fear cycle will finally have a chance to complete. The other thing is, just like you have a cut, your psyche is self-healing. So just like when you have a cut, your body knows what to do. It inflames the area. It sends its healing mechanism to heal the cut. Well, your psyche works in the same way. It'll bring you the memory, how it made you feel. You'll be able to process through it. Let's say the theme is humiliation. Okay, so it could be terror, it could be humiliation, it could be just emotional overwhelm, right? Let's just go with humiliation. It'll show you the first experience of humiliation. That kicks off your internal psyche's or your psyche's internal healing mechanism. It'll go to the next memory and you'll process through that, and it'll go through the next memory until the feelings, the resonance, the experience of humiliation is discharged from your nervous system. This is the way that your psyche works. Okay, so quick recap here is step one. Remember, develop that active imagination. Learn how to work with your emotional system. Meet your dissociative part within your emotional system. Meet it with emotional resonance. Again, you can practice with the lighter one. You can practice with the anger. That's a good way to start. Then you're going to discover the underlying motivation. The anger is going to point you to an experience. The dissociation is going to point you to an experience. And when you ask those underlying questions and you understand what the underlying theme is about, humiliation, terror, you're going to also discover that bodily memory, that subconscious memory through your emotional system here. And when you allow that fear cycle to complete, that memory that's flooding your mind with all of those emotionally charged up thoughts and feelings. And again, you're not going to be aware of the memory. You're definitely aware of the thoughts and feelings overwhelming you. But this is what you're getting access to. When you process through it, they're going to lose their emotional charge. Your psyche, the internal healing mechanism of your psyche, is going to be kicked off, and it's going to help you discharge or release that humiliation from your nervous system. And when you're no longer feeling humiliated again, there's no longer a need to dissociate into your head, and that aspect of your personality or that defense mechanism can relax. Now, just a heads up that when you get down to those humiliating or that extreme terror, that extreme fear, it can be overwhelming. And what your mind can do is it'll throw so many resistances at you. It'll make you daydream. It'll give you cravings for addictive things. It'll try to get you all foggy. It'll make you sleepy. And these different things can come up while you're trying to heal your dissociation. And that's exactly what my coaching and my programs specialize in. So make sure you book that call below if you need extra support. I'd love to be able to explore this with you. This is the work I do. So I help individuals go from being so frustrated and angry with themselves because they get inexpressive, they get anxious, they get timid when speaking to people. And part of the reason, a big part of that, can be dissociation. So if that sounds like you, I'd love to be able to speak to you and help you go from that inexpressive state to that state where you are expressive, you're confident, you are assertive because you're not paranoid about dissociating. And because of that, because you found your true expression, you're proud of who you see in the mirror. So I hope this video was extremely helpful for you. And by the way, here's this other video that I was talking about where I go further into the underlying mind and body mechanics and the dynamics that are happening internally when you dissociate. You'll notice it says your mind going blank. That is one of the key symptoms of dissociation. So make sure you check out that video next. You take good care of yourself, and I will see you soon, okay?